After 9 years of struggling, Manchester United have been claimed to be more of a business than a professional football club. At least, a winning football club. So how did it go wrong? And why do things look a little brighter under the new manager, Erik Ten Hag? Manchester United fans had already been down this road with previous managers, so what has actually changed? That's what we'll be trying to find out in today's Premier League episode, so stick around to watch our analysis later in the video. Many would say Manchester United gambled when they appointed Erik Ten Hag in the summer of 2022. The more experienced Mauricio Pochettino was struggling at PSG in France, and even though he had extended his contract the summer before, there was no doubt that he would leave the club at the same time as United were appointing a new manager. The fans had earlier wished for Pochettino to join several times, but it seemed like the timing was never right for either of the parties. There's always a lot of media attention when Manchester United are announcing new players or managers, and maybe more than usual when Erik Ten Hag was introduced in May. He was taking over a divided team with underperforming and unhappy players after the period under interim manager Ralf Rangnick. Even if the Dutchman had never managed in one of Europe's biggest leagues, he still arrived with an impressive CV. In addition to developing world-class players individually, he also built the most talented Ajax side in decades. In a club with proud transitions and high demand for results, Ten Hag lived up to the expectations, winning 3 Eredivisie titles and 2 Dutch Cup titles in his 4.5 years in Amsterdam. And who will ever forget their Champions League run in 2019, where they were a couple minutes away from beating Tottenham on aggregate in the semi-finals. It was not like Ajax defended their way to the brink of the final either. They played beautiful attacking positional play, knocking out teams like Real Madrid and Juventus along the way. Ten Hag had earlier spent 2 years in Germany, coaching the second team of giants Bayern Munich and working closely together with first-team boss at the time, Pep Guardiola. Ten Hag has several times told how much he learned from his time in Germany, especially from Guardiola. Man United's assistant manager, Steve McLaren, once said in an interview, he worked with Guardiola and even took in his philosophy too. They called him Mini Pep out there. The Dutchman studied Guardiola's approach to training, work ethics, and tactics, and tried to emulate it. And there is clearly mutual respect between the two managers, who now share the same city. Guardiola has several times praised Ten Hag's work and the way he approaches football. He even claimed that Ten Hag would have been a good replacement for himself at Manchester City some years ago. There's no doubt in Ten Hag's ability as a manager, but Manchester United have already had several great managers in the last 9 years without success. Since Sir Alex Ferguson's speech at Old Trafford in 2013, where he told fans that their job was now to support their new manager, a lot has happened. David Moyes was given a 6-year contract at United. Let's just say it was a huge commitment to a manager that had never won any big trophies before. From winning the Premier League just a few months earlier, Moyes United got the worst ever start to a Premier League season. And when the transfer window also became a disaster, with failure in all attempts to buy quality midfielders like Toni Kroos, Sami Khedira, and Ander Herrera, United started to panic. Maybe that was why they signed Marouane Fellaini at deadline day for almost £30 million on a 4-year contract. With the exception of buying Juan Mata from Chelsea in January 2014, there were a few positive memories from Moyes' time at Old Trafford. He only lasted 9 months in the job, and Ryan Giggs had to step in as interim manager for the remainder of the season while still playing. Moyes never had a clear style at United and was not the strong leader the club needed. United then appointed a strong leader in Louis van Gaal, who had won a lot earlier as manager, unlike Moyes. Van Gaal had an impressive CV, with more Eredivisie titles than Ten Hag, won the Bundesliga with Bayern, won La Liga with Barcelona, and even won the Champions League with Ajax in 1995. He also had the reputation of a playing style that was much more clear, but the team scored few goals and created few chances. The football was just a bit boring at United under Van Gaal. He did spend money though, on a lot of players. Luke Shaw, Ander Herrera, Falcao, Angel Di Maria, Memphis Depay, Morgan Schneiderlin, Bastian Schweinsteiger, and Anthony Martial. The list of signings goes on and on. But after changing out most of the squad, Louis van Gaal was sacked right after winning the FA Cup 2 years after his appointment. In came Jose Mourinho, which was basically a signal that United only wanted to win again. It didn't matter how. Mourinho did finish second in the league in his best season, and also lifted the League Cup and Europa League trophy before that. But as usual, Mourinho got into trouble in his third season and was replaced by interim manager and club legend Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in December of 2018. Solskjaer started great and helped by more attacking style of play and a Champions League run. He got the job on a permanent basis in 2019. Also, Solskjaer managed to get United to a second place in the league, but never won any trophies. After a summer of signing players like Jadon Sancho, Raphael Varane, and of course, Cristiano Ronaldo, the Norwegian manager failed to live up to the expectations. The dip in performances and what seemed like a team without faith in their manager lead to Solskjaer leaving United by mutual consent in December 2021. Assistant manager Michael Carrick had to step in for a couple of games, while United searched for a replacement. The Glazers called upon the godfather of gegenpressing, Ralf Rangnick, who was appointed as interim manager and for a consultancy role the next 2 years. But things got even worse after this move. The performances were terrible, and Rangnick didn't seem to have any respect in the locker room. After the season, he didn't even get to finish his project in the consultancy role. Erik Ten Hag was not about to have an easy start to his time as United manager. The club had spent the last 9 years blindfolded, with lack of direction and plans. Several former managers with completely different styles of play, signing different types of players, which led to an unbalanced squad. Not to mention impatient fans with a really bad relationship with the owners. So how has Erik Ten Hag turned this horror show around? We bet a lot of the United fans were furious after the humiliating 4-0 loss to Brentford earlier this season, thinking the club had yet again hired the wrong manager. The Dutchman didn't impress in the interview after the game either, and the players already seemed a bit unhappy. But now, everything's different. There are a lot of positives. United nearly doesn't concede goals anymore, and even the backup defense keeps clean sheets. There's suddenly a clear playing style, unlike the days under Mourinho, Solskjaer, and Rangnick. Several players have started to look like the best versions of themselves again, like Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Luke Shaw, David De Gea, and Raphael Varane. The new signings, Casemiro, Christian Eriksen, Lisandro Martinez, and Anthony have all contributed positively. Not to mention that Erik Ten Hag and the club have also dealt with some big problems like the World Cup break and the Ronaldo interview in a great way. Suddenly, there is even a small possibility of becoming an outsider for the Premier League title. Who would have thought? Yes, we know that all of this sounds pretty similar to the start that Solskjaer had in his time at United, but there are still some differences between the two managers. First of all, it doesn't feel like a coincidence that Ten Hag have started to implement his standards. When he started in his new job, he and his staff planned how they were going to turn around the form and mood in the squad. So to compare with Solskjaer, look at the difference after the Euro 2021 and the World Cup 2022. A lot of the players returned to United disillusioned after the Euro, especially the English players who had just lost the final. Players like Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, and Harry Maguire were in poor form and weren't able to turn it around as the Premier League season started. Erik Ten Hag planned for the period after the World Cup already, before he was assigned as United's manager. Not only how he was going to maintain the form of the players that didn't make the World Cup, but also how to take care of the players returning from Qatar, mentally first and foremost. And looking back, United have succeeded with their strategy. Rashford looked better than ever, and Casemiro and Varane both started to deliver very soon after their disappointing end to the tournament. And we're sure that Lisandro Martinez appreciated some extra days off in Argentina after the win. Not only have Ten Hag implemented a positive style of play and planned well for the season, he has also set standards with his leadership. When the number one player in form, Marcus Rashford, was late for a team meeting, he was placed on the bench against the Wolves. Ten Hag responded to the questions about the decision after the game. If you want to create a winning culture, you have to go this way. If you allow them to be undisciplined, if they don't match the standards, then it will come back and blow up in your face. Rashford later came in from the bench and scored the winning goal. That is what we call great leadership. And Ten Hag puts great care in the details. If a player needs extra tickets for matches, the club would fix it. If anything happened privately and the players needed extra security, the club would arrange that as well. But also, if a player needs to be punished, that will happen. It would be fair to say that United have lacked standards in these areas earlier. Erik Ten Hag has so far navigated through a lot of obstacles in his first months as United manager, and suddenly, things don't seem to be that bad at Old Trafford anymore. The fans might even get their wish of the Glazers selling out of the club. Do you believe Ten Hag will be the first real successful manager after Sir Alex Ferguson at Manchester United? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.